Have you ever noticed how exhausting it is to keep fixing the same problems? Money, love, purpose, as if reality itself were arguing back. You pray, affirm, visualize, but it feels like the world keeps testing you harder. That's because you're fighting for the wrong reality. Neville Goddard said, "Stop wrestling with shadows." Yet most people still spend their lives reacting to appearances, believing the battle is out there. But what if creation is finished, explained not as a theory but as a fact? What if the moment you stopped reacting, everything would begin to move in your favor? This video isn't about positive thinking, it's about spiritual physics. You'll see why every argument with 3D keeps your old self alive, and how to finally stop fighting 3D Neville Goddard style by assuming the end, feeling it real, and letting the illusion dissolve. Because you were never meant to struggle for proof. You were meant to remember your power. Once you understand how imagination creates reality, peace becomes your new normal, and the world, your reflection of it. Every time a person argues with what they see, they unknowingly strengthen it. They think they're defending their truth, but they're only watering the weed they want to pull out. The mind screams, "This can't be real." Yet the emotion behind that cry becomes the proof that it is. Neville Goddard called this the trap of reactive consciousness, where your fight feeds the illusion itself. In the law of assumption reaction, emotion is the magnet, not the argument. It's like shouting at your own reflection, hoping it changes before your face does. You might fix your hair, frown, or wave your hand at the mirror, but until you shift your inner state, the reflection remains. That's what happens when we try to stop fighting 3D reality with logic or effort. You're wrestling with a shadow and calling it a battle for your life. Yet in truth, the shadow only exists because you stand in the light. The struggle feels noble at first, as if resistance means strength. But the moment you fight appearances, you validate their authority. You say, "You're real enough for me to fight." This is why Neville taught that creation is finished, explained through the stillness of faith. The more you react to what's in front of you, the more you confirm it's still yours. And so the cycle continues. Reaction, reinforcement, repetition. Think of someone trying to silence a barking dog by barking back. The noise doubles, the tension rises, and peace becomes impossible. That's how most people live inside their minds, arguing, proving, resisting, and reacting. But in the law of assumption, silence isn't weakness. It's creative mastery. Because imagination creates reality, and silence is the sound of power returning home. The wish-fulfilled Neville method begins where the argument ends. When you stop fighting the 3D world, you finally hear the still, quiet voice within, the one that says, "Be still and know that I am." That knowing isn't passive, it's the most assertive act of consciousness. It declares that what's seen is temporary and what's assumed is eternal. Fighting stops when faith starts breathing again. It's easy to forget that reacting to 3D is a form of worship. You give it your energy, your focus, your belief, and belief is creative fuel. The law of assumption reaction isn't about right or wrong feelings. It's about where your awareness lives. Every protest is a prayer to the old state. Every emotional argument with reality is a declaration that the illusion still rules. You cannot serve two masters, fear and imagination. Sometimes the struggle feels addictive. People check their phones for signs, replay negative conversations, or measure progress by external proof. But this constant checking keeps them stuck in the loop of lack. Neville Goddard often said, "The moment you accept the wish fulfilled, you no longer look for it." To live in the end means to rest in inner completion, even when the world looks unfinished. Imagine someone planting a seed and digging it up every day to see if it's growing. That's what fighting 3D looks like. Impatience dressed as effort. Creation is finished explained in this way. Once the seed of assumption is planted, your only task is to feel it real. Keep watering it with calm faith, not with frantic inspection. The soil of imagination doesn't respond to panic. It responds to peace. The irony is that the moment you stop arguing, reality starts changing, because nothing external ever had independent power. It was your inner dialogue animating the scene. When you withdraw belief from the conflict, it collapses like a puppet whose strings were cut. That's when feeling is the secret truly comes alive. The absence of fight is the presence of creation. So, the next time the world tempts you to fix it, pause, breathe. Remember that the mirror never argues, it reflects. When you stop fighting 3D, you stop feeding the false. What if peace isn't the reward for victory but the cause of it? Because only when the battle ceases, can the higher law, imagination creates reality, begin to work in your favor. Neville Goddard used to say, "You never fight against the shadow, you simply walk into the light." That's the essence of the law of assumption. You don't push circumstances away, you transcend them. Every situation in 3D is a mirror, waiting for you to change your inner image. When you rise in consciousness, the mirror bends to reflect your new height. To fight is to stay below, to assume is to ascend. Circumstances are like the weather. They pass, but your internal climate decides how you feel through them. Most people carry a storm inside and blame the rain outside, but Neville's method, the wish-fulfilled Neville method, teaches that the world rearranges itself to reflect your emotional temperature. When you live in the end, you stop demanding that the wind obey you and simply walk with calm faith through it. Imagine being inside a movie and suddenly realizing you're both actor and director. That's the shift Neville described. You stop arguing with the script and start rewriting it through assumption. The law of assumption isn't a philosophy, it's an act of identity. The moment you assume a new state, the old world must bow to your new role. That's not denial, that's divine authorship. It's the difference between trying to fix the waves and realizing you are the tide. Fighting against circumstances is like yelling at the ocean to calm down. Rising above is standing in stillness until your peace dictates the sea's rhythm. The more you fight, the deeper you sink. But when you remember that imagination creates reality, you realize the shore was always within you. Neville never told his students to ignore the world. He told them to see through it. There's a big difference. Ignoring means pretending it's not there. Seeing through means recognizing it as illusion, a projection of your state. The law of assumption reaction happens when you look at a problem and instead of shrinking, you rise in feeling. You don't resist gravity. You transcend it through new awareness. Every challenge is an invitation to assume higher consciousness. The moment you react, you reinforce the old state. But the instant you feel yourself in the new one, you start moving universes. The external doesn't need your effort, only your alignment. The Feeling It Real Neville Goddard practice isn't about escaping pain, but transforming perspective until peace feels natural. Think about how an eagle faces a storm. It doesn't flap harder. It locks its wings and lets the wind lift it higher. That's what rising above means in the law of assumption. You don't conquer 3D through control. You rise through surrender to your chosen state. The storm becomes your servant because your vision refuses to descend into reaction. When Neville said, "Creation is finished," he was describing this exact process. You don't fight for a new reality. You awaken to the one already prepared. Every possible outcome exists. Your assumption simply tunes the frequency. Fighting circumstances means you've forgotten the station you're on. Changing your feeling changes the channel. That's how you stop fighting 3D Neville Goddard style, through remembrance, not resistance. To assume the end Neville Goddard teaches is not about pretending the problem doesn't exist. It's about being so deeply identified with the solution that the problem loses relevance. Circumstances can scream, but your silence carries more authority. In that stillness, power returns. The false dissolves, and what's true emerges naturally, without effort or demand. So when life shouts, "Look what's happening," smile softly, because you know nothing's happening to you, everything is responding to you. That's the hidden law behind all manifestation. Stop arguing with the stage. Step into the role already written for your wish fulfilled, and in that moment, the play begins to change around you. Have you ever stood before a mirror trying to clean a stain that wasn't on the glass but on your own face? That's what most people do with life. They try to fix the reflection, the job, the partner, the money, not realizing the smudge is within. Neville Goddard made this truth simple. The 3D world is only the mirror of your inner assumption. Change the image, and the reflection obeys instantly. But here's the trap. The moment you think the mirror is real, you become its prisoner. You start adjusting external things, diets, routines, relationships, all in the hope of feeling better. Yet until the inner movie changes, the outer world plays the same scene. The law of assumption reaction explains this perfectly. Reality is delayed feedback, not punishment. It shows you what you're assuming right now. Trying to fix the reflection is like rearranging the smoke instead of controlling the fire. You can move it for a second, but it'll return to form until the source changes. That's why Neville's Feeling It Real method isn't about forcing results, but about reprogramming the origin point, consciousness itself. The mirror will never lead. It only follows. The one who imagines determines what it shows. When Neville said, "Stop fighting 3D," this is what he meant. The mirror has no opinion. It doesn't argue, it reflects. Yet most people live as if the reflection has power over them. They beg it to change, cry when it doesn't, and curse it for being honest. But creation is finished, and the reflection is already catching up to what you're feeling now. Think of a photographer adjusting the model instead of the camera lens. The photo will still come out blurry until the focus changes within. Likewise, no amount of outer correction will fix an inner misalignment. The wish-fulfilled Neville method teaches that feeling is focus. Once the image in your imagination becomes sharp, the external world simply prints what's already developed inside. It's funny how we call reality solid, yet it's the most obedient servant of imagination. You touch it, see it, and swear it's unchangeable, but it's only the crystallized echo of yesterday's belief. That's why imagination creates reality isn't poetic. It's literal. The outer world is your delayed reflection in physical form. Stop polishing the mirror. Clean the lens of your perception instead. The moment you accept that truth, a strange peace arises. You no longer chase outcomes. You cultivate states. You no longer beg for signs, you embody them. The mirror becomes your ally, not your enemy. Every unwanted reflection is simply a reminder to refine the image. Neville would say, "Don't fight it, thank it. It's showing you what needs to shift within." People often say, "I've been visualizing, but nothing's happening," yet they miss the point. Visualizing is only effective when felt real. You can imagine 100 times, but if your emotion still argues with the scene, you're splitting the image in two. The mirror can't reflect clarity if you're projecting confusion. To assume the end Neville Goddard way is to fuse vision and feeling into one truth. When the inner picture stabilizes, outer chaos becomes irrelevant. You start noticing that life reorganizes itself quietly. People act differently. Coincidences multiply. Resistance fades. That's the magic of alignment. The reflection begins to smile back at you because you finally smiled first. The universe never argued. It was simply waiting for you to remember who the image truly is. And so, the next time you feel tempted to fix the reflection, pause. Ask yourself, am I trying to change the mirror or the one looking into it? Because when you shift the image, the reflection has no choice. That's the hidden grace of the law of assumption. Creation is finished. The mirror is faithful. The question now is, will you trust what it's showing you enough to transform within? Every time you fight with what is, you unknowingly call yourself powerless. The struggle might look brave on the surface, but underneath it hides the belief, "I can't change this." And that belief feeds the victim identity, the part of you that reacts, complains, and waits for rescue. Neville Goddard said it simply, "You are the operant power." The fight begins to fade the moment you remember you're not the character, you're the dreamer. Resistance feels like strength, but it's really fear wearing armor. It says, "If I stop fighting, I'll lose." Yet the truth is the opposite. Creation starts where resistance ends. The law of assumption isn't about pushing harder. It's about returning to I am, the creative center where all possibilities already exist. When you drop the sword, the storm dissolves. Not because it's gone, but because you stopped calling it real. Victimhood is a sneaky identity because it offers comfort disguised as power. It gives you something to talk about, someone to blame, and somewhere to hide. But Neville taught that to assume the end is to take full ownership of your state. No one made you the victim but the self-forgotten I am. And the instant you remember that imagination creates reality, the victim's voice goes silent. The 3D world loves reaction. It feeds on your attention. Every emotional outburst, every complaint is a seed planted in the garden of repetition. That's the law of assumption reaction at work. But when you pause, breathe, and feel your inner authority return, something miraculous happens. The old pattern collapses, because you can't be both the prisoner and the creator in the same breath. Dropping resistance doesn't mean indifference. It means alignment. It means refusing to give power to appearances that beg for your fear. The moment you stop fighting 3D, peace returns, not as an escape, but as the most natural state of your being. That peace is what Neville called the creative silence, the still point where new realities begin to take form. Think of a radio. When you cling to static, you keep turning the dial toward noise. But the moment you stop twisting it and center yourself, the signal clears on its own. That's how the creative center I am works. You stop reacting and the universe aligns around your stillness. Feeling it real in this sense is not effort, it's remembrance. You're tuning back into the truth. Creation doesn't respond to struggle, it responds to identity. You can pray, affirm, visualize, but if you do it from the state of lack, the mirror only echoes that. The wish-fulfilled Neville method begins when you rest as the one who already has. You speak from completion, not desperation. From that space, even silence becomes a command of power. When you return to your creative center, life simplifies. You no longer chase signs, you recognize them. You no longer analyze timing, you trust divine order. The fight drains energy, awareness multiplies it. The one who knows I am doesn't beg reality to change, they simply become the change, and the world rushes to mirror it. That's how creation is finished, explained in living form. There's a sacred kind of surrender that looks like doing nothing but feels like reclaiming everything. It's when you realize that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of power. The victim waits, the creator decides. The victim reacts, the creator imagines. And imagination, as Neville Goddard taught, is the bridge from fear to freedom. So when you feel that urge to fight, pause, whisper, "I am," and feel how the very air shifts. That's your reminder. You were never meant to survive reality. You were meant to rewrite it, and the pen only returns to your hand once you stop clutching the sword. When conflict appears, most people rush to fix it. They text back, defend themselves, or try to make someone understand. But in the law of assumption, reaction is a declaration. This version of reality is still my truth. Neville Goddard taught a gentler way. He said, "Don't fight the condition. Imagine the wish fulfilled." It's not denial, it's redirection, turning the gaze inward where the real scene takes place. Pause. That single breath between reaction and creation is sacred. In that moment, you reclaim authorship. The world will tempt you to respond, to prove, to justify, but every reaction is a seed of repetition. Close your eyes instead. Feel it, real, Neville Goddard style. Imagine the scene as already resolved. Not how it could be, but how it feels to have it done. Neville often used simple scenes, a handshake, a hug, a congratulatory tone. Why? Because imagination doesn't need drama, it needs conviction. When you stop fighting 3D and enter that inner movie, you're not escaping, you're rewriting the cause. The wish-fulfilled Neville method isn't mental effort, it's emotional permission. You allow peace to replace the need for proof. Let's make it practical. Suppose you're in conflict with someone you love. The old self wants to defend or withdraw. The new self pauses, breathes, and sees the end. Both of you smiling, harmony restored. Feel the relief in your body. Feel how the argument has already dissolved. That sensation is creation, the law of assumption reaction in reverse, transforming tension into resolution. Every pause is an altar where reality bends. You don't need special rituals, you only need presence. The moment you close your eyes, the outer world loses authority. That's where creation is finished, explained through stillness, not effort. You shift the vibration, and the mirror catches up. Feeling is the secret, not because it changes matter, but because it reveals that matter was never separate from you. At first, this practice feels unnatural. The mind screams, "Do something." But remember, reaction is doing something, and it never works. Silence is the higher action. When you enter that quiet knowing, circumstances start moving without your interference. You'll notice calls coming through, apologies made, situations resolving themselves. The outer reflects your inner calm. Neville called this living in the end. It's not a metaphor, it's literal consciousness training. When you assume the end and feel it real, you've stepped into a timeline where the problem is already gone. From there, peace isn't an effect, it's evidence. The feeling of completion becomes stronger than the pull of conflict. That's when miracles begin to appear natural. Think of it like music. When a song hits the wrong note, the skilled musician doesn't smash the instrument, they simply retune it. You are that musician. The discord you feel is the invitation to tune back to your true state. I am. The practice of pausing is your tuning fork. Every moment of inner alignment brings you back into harmony with the finished creation. This is how masters of consciousness move through life. They don't fix, they feel. They don't explain, they embody. Every challenge becomes a reminder to return home. To pause is to remember that imagination creates reality, not panic, not proof, not effort. The world bends where the heart believes it already has. So next time conflict knocks, don't answer in fear. Close your eyes, breathe, and see the end fulfilled. Feel the stillness that follows. That's your creation in progress. The peace you sense in that invisible space is the seed of everything visible to come. And when you open your eyes again, you'll realize reality has already begun to adjust to your calm. Neville Goddard said, "Feeling is the secret," and he meant it literally. The feeling isn't decoration, it's the command itself. In the law of assumption, thought alone is weak until it's clothed with emotion. Feeling is the fire that gives thought its shape. That's why when you feel calm and certain, the illusion loses power. The false 3D reality simply can't survive the vibration of truth. You've probably noticed this before. When you're angry, the world gives you reasons to stay angry. When you're peaceful, life rearranges itself to stay in tune with that peace. This is the law of assumption, reaction in motion. Your world mirrors the tone of your inner song. Feeling, not logic, is what moves mountains. That's why you can stop fighting 3D the moment you feel that everything is already resolved. The 3D world is hypnotic. It tries to convince you that outer facts matter more than inner certainty. But Neville taught that creation is finished, explained through vibration, not effort. When you reach emotional conviction, reality must obey. The false begins to dissolve quietly, like fog retreating from the rising sun. The light of your feeling is stronger than any illusion of fear. Feeling isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about aligning with the truth that everything already is. There's a difference. Pretending creates strain. Knowing creates peace. The wish-fulfilled Neville method is not wishful thinking. It's embodied knowing. When you feel as though it's done, the subconscious accepts it as law, and 3D reorganizes itself without resistance. You can test this in small ways. Think of someone you love and imagine them smiling. Hold that inner warmth until it feels real. Often, within hours or days, they'll contact you or show up in unexpected harmony. That's not coincidence. That's feeling it real. Neville Goddard in action. Your inner calm speaks louder than words. The moment certainty enters the heart, the scene outside begins to shift. Most people try to fix the outer world before they feel better. But Neville's approach reverses it. Feel first, see later. That's the paradox of creation. The false dissolves not because you pushed it away, but because you stopped feeding it. Emotion is energy, and when you withdraw it from illusion, that illusion starves. You win by refusing to fight. Imagine you're in a dream, where everything looks chaotic. The moment you realize it's a dream, your fear fades, doesn't it? That recognition changes the atmosphere instantly. In the same way, when you wake up from identifying with 3D, calm certainty returns. You no longer panic about what's dissolving. You trust what's being revealed. The dream obeys the dreamer. Feeling calm isn't passive. It's the ultimate act of power. It's the silent command that bends reality to your assumption. Neville called this faith in motion, because faith isn't belief without evidence. It's evidence within feeling. The more deeply you feel peace, the faster the outer chaos loses its script. It simply has no role in your new play. When certainty becomes natural, the waiting ends. There's nothing left to prove. You move through life as though the wish fulfilled were already behind you, and that relaxed conviction is magnetic. People, opportunities, and timing all conspire in your favor. The law of assumption doesn't reward effort, it reflects embodiment. Calm is the proof of mastery. So the next time fear tries to pull you back into the old story, remember, your weapon isn't resistance, it's remembrance. Feel it real, and the false will fade like mist before morning light. Because truth doesn't need to fight, it only needs to be felt. And once you feel it, the world has no choice but to follow. There's a moment every creator faces, that instant when 3D seems to challenge your belief. It whispers, "See, nothing's changed." That's the bait. The temptation to argue or prove is the test of faith. But Neville Goddard reminded his students, you're not here to win the old story. You're here to embody the new one. The moment you defend the old, you declare it alive. The ego loves to debate. It wants evidence, validation, applause. But the law of assumption doesn't operate in courtroom logic. It speaks the language of feeling. The one who feels it real Neville Goddard style doesn't argue, they embody. Proof is the world's job, not yours. Your role is assumption. The wish fulfilled is not something to explain, it's something to inhabit. Imagine trying to convince the mirror that you've changed before actually changing. You could argue for hours, but the reflection will not move. Yet when you shift within, the mirror adjusts instantly. That's why Neville said to stop fighting 3D. The mirror doesn't negotiate. Creation is finished. Explained simply means that your job is inner embodiment, not external persuasion. The moment you try to prove your progress, you're living in doubt. Because what needs defense is never truth, it's insecurity. The one who assumes the end speaks from quiet confidence. They don't check if it's working, they know. The more you try to convince reality, the more you declare it unconvinced. Embodiment doesn't argue, it radiates. It's like wearing perfume. You don't need to announce it. People notice it because it's there. That's how the law of assumption reaction works. When you live in the end, the vibration of completion speaks louder than any explanation. You stop chasing understanding and start emanating clarity. The old story begins to dissolve not because you fought it, but because you outgrew it. The universe loves consistency. It bends to the tone you maintain, not the words you shout. Every time you hold your peace while appearances provoke you, you're training reality to listen to your stillness. You're saying, I already know who I am. And that knowing makes the old story irrelevant. The 3D world eventually yields, not because you forced it, but because you stopped feeding it. Think of an actor who keeps breaking character mid-scene to argue with the audience. The story falls apart, but when they stay in role, the world inside the play feels real. That's embodiment. Neville Goddard's teachings are the same. Stop breaking character by reacting to doubt. Live fully as the version of yourself who already is, and the scene will reassemble accordingly. It's easy to fall back into proving mode, especially when things look opposite. But that's exactly when faith becomes visible. You're not here to fix the contradiction, you're here to outshine it. The wish-fulfilled Neville method invites you to persist in the feeling, even when appearances scream otherwise. Because appearances are just echoes, they can't outlast your conviction. When you embody the new story, even silence speaks. People feel the shift in your energy before they see it in form. The old story begins losing its audience, including you. That's when miracles look normal, because they're not interruptions, they're reflections of your steadiness. You become the proof you once sought. So, when the world tries to argue, smile. You've already won, not by defeating the illusion, but by abandoning the battlefield. You're no longer here to explain who you are, you're here to be it. The old story ends the moment you stop auditioning for it, because embodiment doesn't seek permission. It simply walks into the new scene and calls it home. There's a subtle moment on this journey when you realize you've stopped reacting, not because you don't care, but because you've remembered who you are. The storm still passes through, but you no longer identify with the wind. Neville Goddard called this emotional neutrality. It's the natural calm that comes after you stop fighting 3D, the silence of someone who knows creation is finished. Emotional neutrality doesn't mean apathy, it means authority. You no longer need to prove your faith through constant checking or forcing, you simply know. When you live in the end, your body relaxes, your thoughts quiet down, and life begins to mirror your calm. That's one of the clearest signs that the law of assumption reaction has shifted. Your energy feels like truth, not effort. Clarity follows close behind. You start seeing connections that once confused you. Synchronicities multiply, not because the universe suddenly likes you, but because you've tuned to its frequency. You see how imagination creates reality in real time. The puzzle pieces click without your interference. What used to be chaos now looks like choreography. Then come the sudden shifts, the ones that seem impossible until they arrive. People change their tone, opportunities appear out of nowhere, situations resolve overnight. That's what happens when the false dissolves and the wish fulfilled begins to show itself. Neville called it the bridge of incidents, a divine unfolding that feels accidental, but was always your assumption in disguise. These shifts don't come from control, they come from coherence. When your feeling matches your assumption, reality stops arguing. You no longer pray with tension or visualize with doubt. You feel the end as done. That's when the mirror, loyal as ever, changes without resistance. The wish-fulfilled Neville method isn't about hope, it's about harmony. You'll notice people start saying, "You seem different," and you are. Not because life became easier, but because you stopped identifying as the struggler. That's the power of emotional neutrality. It frees you from the victim's vibration. The less you react, the more reality bends. It's the paradox Neville loved. You do less, yet more happens. Even your relationship with time begins to change. You stop asking when because you already feel now. That quiet certainty is a magnetic field of its own. The 3D world, which once felt heavy, starts feeling light and playful. You realize that creation is finished means there was never anything to wait for, only to tune into. The clarity that follows isn't logical, it's intuitive. You start making decisions effortlessly. The right words come, the right paths unfold. That's the sign you've reconnected to your creative center. I am. The law of assumption no longer feels like a theory, it becomes your natural state. You live from it rather than trying to remember it. And then, perhaps the greatest sign of all, peace becomes your default. You stop chasing signs because you've become one. The old you would have called this a miracle. Now it's simply normal. Because once you stop fighting 3D, the impossible becomes inevitable. You walk through life with the quiet confidence of someone who knows the mirror has already turned. So when neutrality, clarity, and sudden change start weaving through your days, smile. It means you've stopped waging war against illusions. You've become the calm within creation. And from that still point, life can finally show you what it looks like when truth leads and everything false bows before it. Deep embodiment isn't something you achieve, it's something you remember. It's the quiet realization that you were never separate from creation in the first place. Neville Goddard called it living in the end. Not because you force peace, but because peace naturally flows when you stop pretending you're incomplete. The moment you rest in I am, the world begins to breathe with you. When peace becomes your default response, you no longer chase control. You don't beg for signs or obsess over timing. You simply move through life as if creation is finished, because it is. The outer world adjusts to your inner stillness, not the other way around. You've stopped reacting to appearances and started radiating from being. That's the hallmark of embodiment. Imagine standing in the middle of chaos and feeling no urge to fix it, not because you're detached, but because you know it's already resolving itself through you. That's mastery. The 3D world bends to that kind of calm. The law of assumption reaction fades because there's nothing left to push against. Your peace has become the pulse of your reality. Neville used to say, "Be still and know that you are God." He didn't mean arrogance, he meant awareness. To know creation is finished is to realize you're looking at the echo of yesterday's assumption. Why argue with the past when the new image is already alive within? The moment you stop fighting 3D, the soundtrack of your life changes. Peace starts leading the scene. The deeper you embody this truth, the more ordinary life becomes extraordinary. Simple moments, walking, eating, resting, feel like communion. You no longer wait for miracles. You walk as one. That's the essence of the wish-fulfilled Neville method. To move as though it's already true. Because when you feel it real, the body, mind, and world follow the rhythm of that conviction. It's like being the conductor of an invisible orchestra. You don't play every instrument, you just hold the tempo. Your stillness is the signal the universe listens to. Every event, person, and coincidence starts moving in harmony with your state. That's creation is finished, explained in motion, not as theory, but as lived vibration. You'll notice that even challenges lose their sting. Something happens, an unexpected bill, a tense conversation, and instead of panic, you feel curiosity. Interesting, you think. I wonder how this will turn in my favor. That's not delusion, that's dominion. You've embodied the knowing that imagination creates reality, and every scene must serve your assumption. Peace becomes not the absence of noise, but the presence of power. You feel it in your chest. A grounded certainty that doesn't need fixing or proof. People may call it faith, but it's deeper than that. It's identity. You're no longer the one hoping for change. You are the changeless one, observing it unfold. The mirror obeys that kind of stillness like a law. And this peace, once rare and fleeting, becomes your normal. You laugh more easily, forgive faster, trust sooner, because you've realized that nothing external was ever against you. It was only reflecting your old self. Now that you've changed the source, the reflection shines differently. Life stops being a test and becomes a collaboration with your own consciousness. So when peace feels permanent and stillness feels powerful, know that you've arrived where Neville wanted every student to reach. Embodiment. No more rehearsing, no more hoping. You are the wish fulfilled, and from that quiet center, the world has no choice but to organize itself around your calm. Most people spend their lives defending what they don't want, arguing for limitation, proving struggle, rehearsing fear, but you were never meant to fight for the wrong reality. Neville Goddard revealed that the battle was never between you and the world. It was between awareness and forgetfulness. The moment you remember who you are, the war ends. Because creation was finished long before you started fighting. To stop fighting doesn't mean to give up, and it means to wake up. You realize that you've been swinging at shadows cast by your own state. The law of assumption reaction is simple. Whatever you defend, you make real. So instead of fighting, you choose. You choose your state deliberately, not as reaction but as authorship. The pen has always been in your hand. Neville's secret was radical simplicity. Assume the end. Not wish, not hope. Assume. The end is the seed already sown in the soil of consciousness. When you dwell in that feeling, the illusion starts rewriting itself. That's the wish-fulfilled Neville method at its essence. You no longer fight the old, because the new is already here, quietly unfolding in response to your conviction. The wrong reality can look loud, convincing, and urgent. It'll tempt you with evidence, with logic, with fear. But you've learned, feeling is the secret. When you return to inner certainty, illusion loses its script. The false fades, not because you destroyed it, but because truth no longer needs to compete. You've outgrown the story that once held you captive. Choosing your state is the highest form of faith. It's not about ignoring problems. It's about deciding which version of yourself meets them. You stop reacting to appearances and begin responding from identity. I am becomes your anchor, unshakable, quiet, real. That's how you stop fighting 3D Neville Goddard style, by remembering you never had to. Truth doesn't argue, it reveals. When you live as though creation is finished, explanation becomes unnecessary. People sense it in your energy, calm, grounded, luminous. The illusion can no longer find a home in you because it feeds only on reaction. That's how you shift timelines, not by force, but by stillness. The mirror can't reflect chaos to someone who has become peace. It's like walking out of a movie halfway through. You simply stop participating in that version of the story. No guilt, no resentment, no fear. You just stand up and step into a new script. Imagination creates reality, and you are its living proof. The audience you once called circumstances adjusts automatically to your new role. Neville's message was never about control. It was about consciousness. You can't fix an illusion. You can only awaken from it. The world reorganizes around your choice of self. Every impossible thing becomes pliable once you assume the end and feel it real. Creation is finished, explained through peace, the peace that knows the outcome before it unfolds. And so you return full circle. The struggle dissolves, the resistance fades, and the truth stands quietly unshaken. You've stopped fighting the wrong reality because you've remembered the only one that ever mattered, the one within. From here, life doesn't need your defense, it only needs your decision. The rest is automatic. Choose your state. Assume the end. Feel it real. That's all. Let truth rewrite what illusion once ruled. Because the moment you stop fighting, the universe finally has space to show you what it always wanted to, that you were never separate from the power that creates worlds. So now the question is, what reality are you still fighting for? The one built by fear, or the one already finished in truth? Every reaction, every moment of resistance is a small prayer to the wrong world. But every quiet act of faith says, I remember who I am. Neville Goddard's message was never about waiting for miracles. It was about being the miracle. When you stop chasing signs and start living as the wish fulfilled, life itself begins to bend toward your peace. The illusion doesn't end in battle. It ends in remembrance. Pause today and ask yourself, what would it feel like if it were already done? Because that feeling is the key, the map, the doorway. The moment you enter it, the struggle loses meaning. You don't fight the reflection anymore. You become the light behind it. If this message reminded you of your power, if something inside you finally felt seen, then let it continue. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep walking with us through these truths. Together we'll go beyond reaction, beyond effort, and back into the quiet strength of I am.